Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faith and Fellowship. We're three guys based in Utah. I'm Kirk.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Lyric.
And the goal of our show is to share stories and beliefs from different people local to our area.
Our mission is to bring civil discourse and allow people who hold different faiths a platform to tell us what they believe.
The show's model consists of an interview episode and a follow-up response episode where we'll discuss the topics that were brought up with our guests in the initial interview and give our take from a biblical standpoint.
Full disclaimer, not all comments and opinions expressed by our guests represent our own opinions. Thank you guys for listening and enjoy this episode.
This is the world's strongest coffee. At least they claim it is. It's really not that strong.
It's not that good.
It's high in caffeine. It's called Death Wish coffee. Anyway,
Our
welcome
sponsor.
to Faith. Yeah, our sponsor, Death Wish Coffee, claims to be the world's strongest. It's decent, but I've had stronger. And it's overpriced for being the world's strongest. But welcome to Faith and Fellowship. Lyric is taking care of some unfinished business. He will be joining us shortly.
You're the worst.
It's your laugh, man.
I didn't laugh.
Here with me in the studio, I have Kirk.
Hello. Thank you for joining. I'm glad to be here.
And the spirit of Lyric, who will soon be Lyric with us in person. And our previous guest from part 1, Mr. Anderson.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks for being back.
He's not the Mr. Anderson from The Matrix. I get them confused all the time. But
He wants to
he's
be.
a different one.
He wants
he
to
could
be.
be. He very well
Yeah.
could be.
I've actually never seen The Matrix.
What?
But I do know his last name was spelled different than mine.
Oh, yes.
Mr.
That
Anderson.
is for sure. You do have a
How
kind
is
of a...
how is it spelled?
His is spelled with S-O-N. Mine is spelled with S-E-N, Danish.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it spelled that way. Interesting.
With an E?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't read.
Lyric, you're back.
Did you get in touch with Any Hour Services?
All right, David Anderson, we appreciate you coming on the show today.
If you didn't hear part 1, go back and hear part 1. We left on a bit of a cliffhanger, and we're going to be picking up that today and talking about that.
Before we do, I'm going to throw myself under the bus for comedic reasons and also to be humble in the fact that people make mistakes.
In other words, you feel bad for Lyric always getting the flack, and you want to...
I don't give him the flack. So if that's you...
He brings it upon himself.
I'm going to bring 2 witnesses.
Even if he brings it on himself, sometimes you are over the top.
I
But
think you're over the top.
thanks. I
David
appreciate
Anderson, our guest. Tell us
that.
more.
Oh, is that... No. So David...
Do you want to be a new co-host on the show? Because I'm getting rid of 2 of them.
we see how you just
I
took
thought
charge.
you were the
And
co-host.
we're all co-hosts. Joel says he's the host.
It's our food,
We're the
comrade.
co-host.
Oh, I am the one that edits all of the episodes
This
and
is
takes
true.
care of all
I'm
of the
the one that
technical
gets-
I made the
stuff,
logo.
ordered the equipment.
I'm the one that gets all the guests.
No, you don't. That's
Name
not
one.
true.
Lyric's
Name
just
one.
here, except when he's not here.
Name one you've
I got
gotten.
Father Justin.
That was a combination.
No, it was not a combination.
I went down there with you.
Yeah, and who emailed Father Justin? Who set up the time for Father Justin? Who
I
called
love
Father
how Kirk
Justin?
throwing himself under the bus turned
one
into
did.
us bashing Lyric.
This one did.
But,
Okay,
but
you
it's
got
Kirk who guides the conversation.
you have
so-
Father Justin.
Our best guest, in my opinion.
I don't know about that.
Hey,
It was a good.
He was a good guest.
It was
I
good.
wouldn't say our
I'm
best
not going to
guest.
rank our guest.
You're gonna
because
say
I
that?
appreciate
Nah,
every.
I like
Tyler.
to tier
I'll rank
list.
our guests.
Like, I rank David Anderson a little bit higher than both of you on my...
We're not guests.
No, it's not about guys. It's just ranking people in my life.
By the way, we got to hear Joel's story sometime. He's the only one of us.
That's
that
true.
hasn't.
We'll
So
see.
when we don't have one, we'll throw you in.
anyways.
Okay,
you're-
before that, to throw myself under the bus.
Wow.
When we got together, and I got to know you through another couple that comes to our church, and we got together, and I got your name wrong.
Yep.
And do you
Not
remember?
only,
How do you
it's one
get
thing to
David
get his
wrong?
name wrong once,
Are you a real American?
but for like what, 6 months?
It wasn't 6 months.
I mean-
No, it wasn't 6 months.
no,
Maybe like 3 weeks.
maybe
or
3 weeks. And I don't even remember. Do you remember what it was?
Chris,
How did you remember?
It was Chris.
How do you know?
Yeah, you weren't even here.
I know.
Yeah.
I've heard the story.
I've not told you this story.
You've told me this story.
It must have been the kids.
Lana and Andrew and you have all told me the story.
Okay.
Chris Anderson, you were thinking of the basketball player for the Miami
But the
Heat.
thing is,
Birdman?
Mr.
Yeah.
Anderson over here never corrected him.
No, he didn't.
He was like, "Oh, good morning, Chris. Good to see you." And,
like,
and
"Hey, what's up?"
Dave's just like, "Hey, man, you know."
Yeah, that's you know what. And I was praying for Chris, and God knew who I was praying
Someone
for.
in the world named
Holy
Chris
Spirit
has been blessed
intercedes
by
for
our
us
city.
when we don't know how to pray.
Then I remember. Oh man! And then I remember. I remember one day somebody was like, "Yeah," and they were referencing you, and they're like, "Yeah, David." And I was like, "David?
Who's that?
You mean Chris?
Bathsheba?
You mean Chris? Oh, it's David? Okay. Well, and then it's been fixed.
The guy with the white van.
I don't do names really well, and my wife, she does names really, really well, and so she's my savior when it comes to names.
All right, I'm glad we made the
I said names. Okay, I didn't say my soul.
Isaiah 43.
I have a
10.
really
There
good.
is no savior.
I have a really
but
good helpmate. I have a person who completes me.
Her name is Monica.
Wow.
I got him there.
You didn't get me there. Monica's my AI assistant, my assistant.
She writes the
artificial
sermons
intelligence.
and-
She does not write my sermons.
But I do remember the person that corrected you thought it was hilarious. and
Was it Abby?
No, it was Jordan.
Oh, it was Jordan.
Yeah.
Okay.
He thought it was so funny.
I could see
Yeah, he
Jordan
did.
getting a kick
And
out
then-
of that.
Yeah, and then you were like, "Why didn't he tell me?" And Jordan's like, "Probably because he thought it was funny and wanted to see how long he could go with it."
Is that why it was?
I'm
Which
pretty
is
sure.
exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how long I could keep it going before you
Seriously?
figured it out.
Seriously?
I think we should bring Chris back. He could be the Birdman.
So I think Jordan's not been on the podcast. He leads our worship. He and Abby come to our church. I think he stays at this church because I make him laugh with all my
I think that's
gaffes.
what it is.
Or is it like the guilt if he left that you would like crumble?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think it's just the way that you pronounce some of your words.
Pharaoh.
Whatever.
This is the heel that he will die on. He will die on this heel.
Hill.
Hill.
Lyric, you can't talk with your
Yeah, listen.
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
It's not even
And
an
your
English
Balboa
word.
snakes.
Jaguar.
It's literally a Spanish word.
All right. Let's get back to
Yeah.
our story. David, thanks for being with us. You left off with your family coming to Saratoga Springs, and somewhere around your teenage years, 13 or so, your family stopped going to the LDS church. And then you kind of went through a little bit of a period where you said you kind of struggled with the fact that maybe there wasn't even a God. So what kind of led you there, and what led you from there?
Yeah, so I mean, as I was talking about last episode, that incident kind of made me. Well, that in combination with at that time I was started to study a lot more about mythologies and different religions. Specifically at that time studying Greek mythology.
Yeah.
Really delving into it. And then a little bit later I would get into Norse mythology, and then, after some time I just kind of thought, we call them mythologies now as they're myths, but at the time they weren't mythologies. They were the dominant religions for whatever region the mythology came from. And so my thought process just kind of turned into, give it enough time, then Christianity will become the Christian mythology, just as it did for these other religions. So,
Okay.
yeah, I kind of started to lean more towards that.
Okay. So what started? So that takes you up through your teenage years and
Into high
somewhere in high school. Did things start changing then, or did you graduate high school that way, or?
Yeah, so in high school, I was a very adamant atheist. And so, when I would be hanging out with a friend and their friends are around and talking about stuff or anything religion, I was very vocal about atheism and debating and poking holes in what they were saying and stuff like that. And I was fairly good at it too, which is, not necessarily a good thing. because I was just kind of poking fun and just kind of degrading. And then there was another incident too. In high school, I had a friend that committed suicide, and she ended up hanging herself from a tree at a park. And again, that just kind of set it in even further of, I don't think there's a God, but if there is, look what he's allowing.
Right.
And I had a lot going on in my personal life, my home life at that time too. And I was like, if there is a God, then where is he?
Yeah.
I'm sure all these things that I'm going through and have happened, I'm like, where has he been?
Yeah, kind of the question that a lot of people ask. If God's real, why does he allow all these bad things to take place?
Yeah. And it was just kind of like, if he is there, then he's abandoned me as well.
Right.
And so, yeah, that was predominant to even outside of high school. And then that didn't start to change until I was 19. Yeah.
Okay. What school did you graduate from? High school?
Westlake High School.
So do your parents still live Saratoga Springs, or did you guys move in Utah somewhere?
Yeah, so they're out in Harriman right now. We moved around quite a bit when I was in high school. So I think 3 times, probably.
And is your mom still doing sign language?
Yeah.
And your dad's still part of the police force?
Yeah, my dad works as a police officer for the state.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about what you do.
I work armed security, and so it's fun. The company I work for, we also have guys in the courts, and they sit in with the judge and do prisoner transports and such. Yeah.
So you graduate high school, and you're saying somewhere around 19? Is that when things kind of started changing for you?
Yeah. So out of high school, I was going to a trade school for IT, and I was really enjoying that. It wasn't the easiest for me, and then at some point, I ended up working at a call center for Xbox, and so that was fun. But
it's a good thing you had all that experience when you were a teenager playing it after you stopped going to the LDS church.
Yeah.
So
now I have all those hours logged.
God works in mysterious ways.
There you go.
I think one year I thought about buying an Xbox and putting it as a tax write-off because I was working for Xbox at the time. But
you guys can check this. I don't know for sure, but I think Xbox came out when I was something like 20.
I think it came out in 2003.
So I was like 19 or 20. So I was in the military at that time, and I remember the first Halo coming out.
That was the game that came with the Xbox.
And man, I remember playing it for the first time, and I was like, okay. And then it just all went downhill from there.
And you in gaming?
Like, yeah, those
You're
games.
still good at playing games.
No, those games, I'm the person who everybody else shoots to get points. I'm the guy that I have no surroundings. Like I can't get around the whole idea of like there's all these other people and you got to find them, and I just sit there. Next thing you know, I'm dead.
Well, so my question for David is like working at Xbox. Like I remember when I was a kid, you'd smoke some kid in a game, and they'd be like, "My uncle works for Xbox. He's gonna get your account banned." Did you get any privileges? Like, hey, ban this dude who just quick scoped me across the map, or
were you able to blackmail any 5-year-olds into?
Why does your mind go to that?
No, I actually never played online.
Huh?
Because it costs money, and I primarily play just single player games. But talking about Halo, my brother and I and my dad got my mom to try it once.
Yeah.
So we did split screen, and I think it was either my brother or my dad was like standing on top of her head in the game, and she's looking all over the place trying to figure out where everybody else is.
That would have been me.
That was the only mature game my mom let me play when I was
Halo.
Yeah, because the alien blood was like blue. So my mom's head, she's like, "Oh, it's not red. Like my kid's not going to turn out to be crazy. Like he's shooting aliens. They're dropping Kool-Aid. You know.
If we ever get invaded, he'll be able to help us out.
Yeah, defend.
Yeah.
So you're working at Xbox. What took place there? What happened?
So during that time, I was started to get more and more into cars, and I had a buddy that worked there. We would actually street race.
Okay.
So if anybody's thinking about street racing, then don't do it. It's fun.
Call David Anderson. He'll teach you.
No, it's fun. You get an adrenaline rush, but it's not worth it.
Fast and the Furious. That's what
Furious?
that's what we can name this episode.
Yeah.
The Fast
Let's
and the
do
Furious.
it. Let's do it.
But yeah, furious as in mad.
No,
I'll name it the
instead
Fast
of
and the Furious.
Mad David.
Whatever. You're an armchair quarterback.
If Jordan listens to this podcast, he's gonna just want to stay at the church all the more.
Jordan's the worst. So, just kidding. Shout out to Jordan. We love
Yeah.
you.
Kirk's really dissing everybody today.
I am not dissing everybody.
Okay, so you're working for Xbox, and
Yeah.
somebody asks you to play Slaying the Giants with David and Goliath, and that's how you came to Christ. Continue.
What?
Thanks for being part of this podcast.
But yeah, so started to get involved in like car meetups and stuff like that, and then every other week or so on Friday nights we would go to a secluded area north of Salt Lake,
The Capitol building.
past Salt Lake, and there
went to a
was
couple
like farmland out there with a road that went through it that didn't have public traffic on it, so nobody was ever out there, and we would go and street race out there. And then I don't know how much detail you guys want me to
What
go
were you
into,
driving?
but my car,
Yeah, we got to
was-
know at least that part.
it was a 98 Honda Prelude.
Oh yeah.
But when we would race, we would try and match cars similar in performance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I wasn't racing like a 2008 Mustang with my Honda Prelude. But yeah, one night, my buddy, I don't know, he was a friend, but a friend like you go and you hang out and you have fun when you're there, but you don't really talk to them outside of that.
Yeah.
He
Can you?
ended up.
For one second. Can you stop messing with the mic?
What are you talking about? You're hearing things.
No, I'm not.
That's
You're-
Joel.
You know,
Eric can't go a whole episode without touching his
You're
mic.
so fidgetive. Like this is what I would listen. This is
I
what
just
I
want to
was,
hop in on a Prelude right now.
This is what I was hearing.
At the town. I'm just kidding.
That's what you were doing.
Is it?
Yeah, because you're nervous.
I
Or,
like feeling textures.
Well, feel the back of the chair. There you go. Okay,
Oh,
David.
yeah.
Sorry. So, all right, you met someone there.
Yeah, and so he was just a part of the group, and one night he was racing and rolled his car, and I don't remember how many times, but he ended up passing away there. And then I remember that night and the next, that night I had a really hard time sleeping. It was just something just pressing on me. Just thinking, is it over? Just like that. Because before I would say, yeah, there's nothing after life. Like we live life and then we just go into nothingness, like how we were before we were born.
Yeah.
It's just nothing. But just kind of pressing on me of it can't be over just like that. And then the next morning, my mom had no idea what had happened, by the way. She didn't know this until maybe like 6 months ago.
About the street racing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my mom sent me a text that morning and said, hey, I found this sermon online. I know you don't want anything to do with God, but will you check it out for me? And it was from a church in American Fork. And primarily I watched it because it was important to my mom. And then secondly, it was, I don't really know. I think it was just the right time. But my mom felt the need to send that to me, and she found it in time. And
So was your mom at the same time seeking
yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
or the gospel or church?
yeah.
Okay.
She had been seeking for, I don't know how long at that point, but
Okay.
longer than me, obviously, because I wasn't looking. And so I listened to the sermon, and I didn't think much of it. There was a lot in there that I didn't understand, a lot of the language and the stories, and like, I have no idea what's going on. But listening to that pastor, I liked the way he taught. So not only did he teach what they believe, but something that stood out to me is he taught why they believe what they believe. And that's something that really stands out from all I'd known about religion was LDS. They kind of say, this is what we believe. There's really no explanation of that. And just listening to it, he sounded a really reasonable guy, and I liked that he went and talked about like the original language, and we get this word from here, and it could mean this or this, but contextually, we're pulling this meaning from this word.
Right.
And so I listened to it, and within a week or two after that, my mom convinced me to wake up early on a Sunday somehow and go check it out with her.
So you went to that church for the, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
He brought his Xbox with him. He sat in the back.
They didn't have that capabilities at that time.
Yeah.
Like the Switch.
I think that night I stayed up
taking it
pretty
with you.
late till like 3 or 4 playing World of Warcraft, I think. But
That's what Lyric does.
And then he shows up late to record.
I've never played World of Warcraft in my life.
I'm missing out.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
Fortnite sweat.
I've never played it either.
Yeah.
I don't have a PC, that's why.
It's not as great as it used to be. But anyways, I went. I don't even remember what they taught on. I didn't understand any of it. Something that stood out to me, though, is when I went in, the people seemed genuine. And that was something really different for me as far as talking to people of a religious culture.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty awkward for me just because I wasn't expecting it. But that kind of drew me in, and then the music did too. I didn't understand what they were singing about, but there was just something about it that drew me in, and it was just calming.
So
And I'd
would you
fall
say
asleep.
you would fall asleep?
During the music, yeah, just because it was so calming to me. And at that time, my life was just riddled with anxiety, so it was very, very rare that I felt calm.
It's interesting.
That is interesting.
Or was it because you had to get up early on a Sunday morning? Question mark. Just kidding.
11 o'clock is early? Hey, we're going to have
Anything
a survey.
before 2 p.m.
We're
is
going to have
early
a
for Lyric.
survey in the description if you think 11 o'clock a.m.
Actually, I can do
is early.
I can do that.
On a
do that.
Sunday.
On a Sunday.
Spotify has
Quote,
Spotify
on a
questions.
Sunday.
Yeah,
So
we're going to put that question in there, and we want you to vote. If you agree with Lyric that 11 a.m.,
No,
that's
I'm
when our
not-
service starts,
okay.
is early.
For that church, the service started at 9 a.m. for first service.
That could be considered a little
well,
early.
I mean, a little maybe.
Well, let's do a thing. It's
If I-
9 a.m. early on a Sunday.
But if
For
I
a single adult male, that's not early. You just get up and you go.
I agree. So here's a comment that, and maybe you could, a question too. It seems like what you're saying, before you ever really grabbed hold of doctrinal things like the gospel or even really understanding the Bible per se, what drew you was the community, like sincere, the sincere community, the authentic community.
yeah,
And even the music was used to soothe, you and your, what you were going through at that time. Would you say that's right?
yeah, absolutely. And I was even falling asleep during the music was rare for me because it's a new environment for me. I don't feel comfortable around a lot of people, but the music drew me in enough, and I felt calming enough to where I felt like it could fall asleep, or even unintentionally did.
That's cool. So would you say did you go back? Was this a weekly thing, a bi-weekly thing, a monthly thing?
I think after the first time, it was a couple weeks before we went, but then it started to become every week we would go. And then they had some kind of welcome dinner for newer people that were going. And I didn't go, but my mom convinced my dad to go. And again, the only reason my dad went is because it was important to my mom. But then I guess he liked it too, and then eventually he started coming with us. And one day the three of us met with the pastor after the service, and I asked him a lot of questions. I don't remember what a lot of them were, just because, I don't know, it was a while ago. But something that stood out to me is that when he didn't know the answer, he would say, "I don't know," rather than being like, "Well, it's not important," or "We don't need to worry about that," or "Well,
Put that up on the shelf.
Yeah,
Don't take that
that's
down.
a popular.
Because the answer that I would normally get was, "We'll find that out when we're dead." Or like, that's not important for us to know. But he would say stuff like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. That's a good question. I'll dig into that and I'll get back to you." And he would. So that's something that stood out before. But I don't know how long we talked to him for, but at the end of the conversation, all three of us, my parents and I, got saved.
So that particular conversation is where
Wow.
you believe that's when you understood the gospel and wanted to trust Christ.
Well, what do you mean by understood the gospel?
Like you understood the gospel. You understood that you needed a savior
Oh yeah.
from
Yeah.
your sinful self, and that Jesus was that savior, and you wanted to trust him.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't.
Okay.
Like I had a basic understanding of it from what the pastor had explained, but outside of that, it was literally just taking a step out in faith, because I understood the basics. Like, I knew that my life was messed up, and I knew that I was doing a lot of stuff that was sin. And I remember after the meeting, when we were walking out back to the car, I kind of said my own prayer in my head, and it was kind of like my last opposition or challenge to God, where I was like, "Well, God, if you're there, then you heard me." Yeah. And then
So he just talked you through the gospel, and and then led you into some type of I don't want to say lead you in a prayer, but led you in some way of coming to know
yeah.
Christ there at that time.
Yeah, so I mean, it was kind of a guided prayer, but it was just, I wasn't saying anything that I didn't already know or that I didn't believe. It's just like, my life's messed up. Look what I've done with it. And just saying,
I need a savior.
yeah, I don't want to be in charge
And
anymore.
I think this is a good thing to touch on is, as I would say for the most part, American Christians, we tend to get caught up on like this moment, like this, what were the words you said in your prayer? Did you say the right words? What was the exact date and time that you were saved? And it's like, I mean, even myself, I remember growing up as a teenager, like thinking multiple times, like, oh, did I have enough faith to be saved when I made a profession? Like, yeah, I understood the gospel. Yeah, I had faith, but did I have enough? Because I feel like I have more faith now, like now maybe I'm more qualified. And, as I grew and as I understood more, I realized like, that's not salvation. Salvation isn't having enough faith, it's having faith, and our understanding of the gospel and the Bible grow after we come to Christ. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's not like we come to Christ and we know everything. If you understand your need, I mean, David, like you were saying, you're broken and you're into some bad stuff. We all are, and we all were at one point. You understand that Jesus died for you. You come to him in faith, even faith the size of a mustard seed. That's all it takes, and yeah, we're going to spend more time understanding and growing as time goes on, but we don't always realize that it's not necessarily something that just, one moment, done, gone, great, No,
and we don't know when that, I mean, I would say, I agree with what you're saying. We see that salvation is something that God does. And all the ins and outs of how it happens, it's, again, going back to our stories, they all are different. And how God brings us to that knowledge, right? That moment or that progression of understanding we're broken, we're sinful, we've sinned against him, we need forgiveness, we need a savior. And in seeing Jesus as that savior, doing the saving work that we can't do. And yeah, I don't think that that's a moment. I would think that events, all types of events, even before somebody actually understands that, play a part in it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't completely understand that. Just like what you were saying, it was kind of a realization of, I think the pastor just knew how to communicate to me. Mm-hmm. So he spoke very bluntly and direct.
What kind of blunt did he have?
just saying, David, you're not good enough. You're not good. You will never be good enough. And you can't change yourself. Because at that time I was incredibly depressed. I was suicidal, and like I already knew I was broken, but he just set it in even more. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say kicking me while I was down, but he did to an extent, just to set it in. And then he's like, you don't have to be good enough. And then it expanded on that a little bit of what Jesus did. And
that's great.
I didn't have a lot of faith, if barely any, but I had enough for Jesus to hold on to and to hold on to me through that and start to change me.
That's good, man. That's really good. Well, man, as we wrap up, something that we always ask, and we're gonna let Lyric ask it because he's
been dozing this whole time.
Asleep.
It's like he's David Anderson listening to the music at that church. He's over here just.
Is my story
he actually took David's words literally. He's like, you know what? I'm kind of soothing.
I could
Your voice is soothing.
Now.
I'm gonna take a nap.
Forgive me, David.
If he's not putting it down, he's napping.
Lyric, is my story that boring to you?
No, I'm been doing 6 hours of Russian every single day this week.
Do you need a hug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But David Anderson's Chris Anderson's story.
Do you need incredible. A kvass? Let's go get some kvasses.
Let's get some kvass. Let's do it.
Today?
That's a long drive.
Why not?
Hey, I'm down.
David,
I got time.
David, as part of our guest on our show, you get an honorary kvass.
Don't promise something you can't deliver on.
Oh, Kirk's delivering.
Like the JWs. How about you finish out this segment?
Question.
Finish the segment. You actually started this segment.
I try and ask every guest, but they try and end the show before I can ask every guest. Do you have a favorite Bible verse, chapter, something that just comes to your mind that was either important to your faith or just, you got a favorite Bible verse?
I have a couple, but one kind of stands out right now after talking about all of these events that have happened in my life, and those are just a few, but they're some pretty big events. Romans 8:31 has always kind of stood out to me.
Like,
Romans
8. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? And so that's kind of just something that always pops up reoccurring when life gets hard, just to reassurance that God is for me.
Very based.
That's awesome. Yeah. Great. Well, man, thank you for being on the podcast. I know personally talking with you that this is something that definitely you stepped out of your comfort zone and you did a great job and you got a great story, and it's good to know you and know you better. And I know that even we've gotten to know you a little better here, and the people who are going to be listening will know that. And man, if you got any questions, if you listen to this episode or the episode before and you got questions about the gospel, if you got questions about what it is to trust Jesus, or the need, why you need to, or anything that have to do with the Bible, you can contact us at our email address or go to our website, and we'd be glad to listen to those. And we do clown around with each other a lot, but at the seriousness of this podcast is that we're all broken, but we serve a victorious, merciful Savior,
Sovereign,
and He is sovereign. He's merciful.
He's for us.
And He's for us. That's exactly right. And
against us,
go
right?
check out Romans 8. Man, what a great chapter!
And if you want to meet David Anderson, just keep an eye out for the white van driving around Springville, passing out candy.
Free Bibles
And he made street race
in the van.
In the van.
Yeah,
Just make sure you have a van.
you gotta match it here.
Yeah.
Right.
You've been awesome. Thank you, David, for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And we will check you guys out next time on Faith and Fellowship.
It's a weird way of saying
Well,
that.
check you out.
That's the way we say it in the 80s.
All right.
Oh, I'm glad that's not like in our modern vocabulary anymore.
It wasn't corrupted by young minds at the time.
Exactly.
Lyric, are you a librarian? Because I saw you checking me out.
Listen,
Oh,
Joel is a $200 textbook with a little bit of gold on it.
what?
What?
Make with that what you want to make with, but
Is that like a riddle we've got to
Yeah.
before next time?
This sounds highly cryptic and
listen.
Well, anyways,
Hey,
Well,
we
no. We
before
got a minute
end-
now. No. Riddles. Talking about riddles. All right. I was reading some really good riddles yesterday in between Russian homework. And,
You got like 1 minute to tell us one.
I don't remember any of them, so we're gonna move on from this segment.
what were you going to say?
I was going to say we're going to put in the description. Could we do that for real?
Yeah.
The question, and if you follow the podcast,
Look, we
answer
know
the
that
question.
people are going to vote against me, but I mean, when the Lord's for us,
what do
who
you-
can be against us?
Well, everybody who listens to the podcast, obviously, because that's what you just said. Everybody's going to be
about
against
this?
you.
Listen,
I will have a questionnaire in the podcast. Well, first I'll have a poll for if 11 a.m. is late, and then I will have a questionnaire where you will tell us your best pickup line. Early. That's
no,
what I
your
meant.
best riddle.
Your best pickup line.
Your best riddle.
Because
Pickup line? Where did you get that?
I hit Lyric with the pickup line, and he hit me with a weird.
I got a riddle.
something about a $200 textbook and gold.
What was your pickup line?
You didn't hear him?
I didn't hear it.
I said, "Are you a librarian?" Because I saw you checking me out.
yeah, and then I asked, "Are you a book?" Like those.
Oh, we're going off the rails. Go
Yeah.
ahead and say your riddle so we can sign off.
I thought I had
I
it,
wanna
but
say
I don't
something
think I can
first.
deliver it.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
On a more serious note, to anyone who's listening, if you want to know more about my story or have questions for me, as far as being an atheist and what changed my mind, then go ahead and just contact through whatever contact options there are.
Chase Squiggle.
And
Yeah.
I'll answer questions and do everything that I can.
No, that's
cool.
good, man.
That's
Yeah,
really
all
cool.
of our contact will be in our description of this episode and our general page, so feel free to do that.
Okay. We will see you next time. We're going to sign off at this time.
Peace
see you
out.
next
I got some
time.
riddles now.
Well, we're going to wait till next time. to-
Riddles with Lyric, that'll be our
That's
surprise
another segment. Yeah. See you next time on Faith and Fellowship.
See you guys.